Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan et kol darkav, lemo Yisrael kehetavniot, lekol hadevarim, shebashamayim. You don't have to go up if you don't want to. I'm going to do it, but you don't have to. Blessed are you, Lord our God, everlasting King, who has given all of his ways to his people Israel as pictures of all heavenly things. You may be seated. Someday we'll actually get that. Yeah, we will. It'll be natural. Okay. I'll give you that. So, we are in... Is that Lynn?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Lynn.
Shabbat Shalom, Lynn. I didn't recognize you. We are in, that's as far as I got. We are in, we're in a Torah portion that I'm going to read stuff I have never, ever studied in 42 years of being a believer. I've avoided this guy because I didn't like him. So we're gonna look at him. We're gonna look at two different things today, totally different, but then at the end I'm gonna try to weave them together and show you what the common thread or the common message, the common theme is. The two different things are this. Isaac and Rivka had twin boys, Jacob and Esau. We're gonna look at Jacob and Esau. We're gonna look at this as the epitome, the pinnacle of all evil and all good. Now, you don't have to believe me until I'm well into it, because I really have to establish this as a Jewish world, a Jewish fact, and something that God created and gave to us to understand. So, you don't have to believe me until I do that. But once I do it, if you don't believe it, you have to be able to tell me why, and you have to be able to tell God why, because I'm going to establish it as firmly as I possibly can. That's the first thing. Second thing we're going to look at is this guy that I've never looked at, and I've never studied him except for one thing, which is the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. We're going to look at Isaac. I've never studied Isaac. I didn't like him. And guess what? All the rabbis said the same thing, which I didn't know until this week, because I never looked at stuff about Isaac because I didn't like Isaac. Well, I finally looked at it, and I was like, all the rabbis said that they felt the same exact way. So I'm like, okay, I'm all right so far. I didn't do anything bad. All right, so we're going to look at this Torah portion called Tol'dot, which means generations. And I had a real hard time coming up with the title of the teaching, because I could have called it and focused on many, many, many different things. But I'm going to try to make this as focused and simple as I possibly can. I called it Walk of the Two Ways, because there are only two ways. In our lives, we've all been through the same stuff, we've all seen the same thing, we've all heard the same thing, we've all been through the same thing with slight variation, and we all know that that is nonsense. There's not only two ways, there's 150 billion ways, and there's shades of everything in between. And the look at the world black and white makes you a freak, and it makes you strap a bomb onto your baby's chest and send them out in the wherever and blow them up. That's people that look at the world in black and white. Or you walk into a church and say, "Thus saith the Lord," and if everybody doesn't bow to you and listen to you, you're done with them. That's looking at the world black and white. Or you become like I was, and you become a religious freak, and you can't see shades, and you can't see variations, and you have no tolerance or patience for anybody, because the world is black and white. We all know that's ridiculous, but it's still true. There is only one way or another way. That's the way God set the world up. This is what I'm going to try to establish for you. Now, I know you don't believe me yet. Even those of you who've been studying with me for a while, you don't believe me, and I know you don't. That's okay. So I'm going to try to make this as clear as I possibly can. So let's look at the first chunk, the children of Isaac, Jacob and Essov. These are the generations, the Tol'dot, of Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rivkah, daughter of Bethuel of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean, to be his wife. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. And the Lord answered him, and his wife Rivkah conceived, but the children fought together inside of her. And she said, "If it is so, why am I?" In other words, I want to die. That's what she's saying. So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples will be separated out of your body. And one people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." Do you know who spoke this to her? Anybody know? She went to the tents of Shem and Eber. And these were the righteous men, and they had what would now be called yeshivot, which is houses of Torah study. There is no Torah. So what were they studying? Torah, right. There was no Torah, but they studied Torah, just the same way that Abraham did Torah before there was Torah, which we'll talk about again. So Shem was the good guy. That was the seed that came down from Noach and Noach's son. He had 3 sons. Shem was the good one. And one of his kids was Ever. That's where the Hebrews came from. Evri, which is Hebrews. So they had tents, the tents of Shem and Ever. That means houses of Torah study. So when I say that, that's what I'm referring to. I'm talking to places where the Torah is taught. That's who spoke this prophecy to Rivkah. Okay? According to the rabbis, according to the sages, that Shem and Ever were the ones who spoke this prophecy. She didn't just go off into her prayer closet. She went to where the Torah was taught, and this is what was said to her, a prophecy. All right. Then it says, wait, let me get my pointer. Thank you very much, Joe. God bless you. Where am I? The children fought together with her. 2 people separate from your body would be stronger than the other. Okay. And the older will serve the younger. When her days leading to delivery had come, were at an end, behold, there were twins in her womb. Now, the first came out all red, all over like a hairy garment. So he's like a monkey, a red monkey baby. And they named him Essov. Now, Essov does not mean hairy, even though if you look it up in the Jusinius and the Strongs and this and that, if you look it up, they all say it means hairy. The Gentiles say it means hairy. The Jews who know Hebrew say it does not mean hairy. It means completed or finished. It's the same word as asa in Hebrew, which is, what is that? Aser in Spanish? Is that right? Right? Aser in Spanish? Asa in Hebrew. That's where it came from. And it means to make or to be or to do something. To do, to make. In other words, he came out fully done. He's already hairy. He's already fully done, yes.
Are you saying Eser like 10 or Aser?
Aser. Well, it's also Eser. Esav. Eser. There's many different forms of the same word. So, he comes out and they name him Made. He's made. He's a made man. Not yet. So, afterward, his brother came out. Afterward. So, who's the older? Who's the older? Essov, right. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand holding onto Esav's heel. So, he was named Heel Grabber, Yaakov. Ekev means heel. Yaakov means something to do with, like, heel one, heel grabber, heel person, something like that. And Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. Yes, that's correct. Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. It doesn't say when he had them as children. It says Isaac was 60 when she gave birth to them. Now, this is a picture of the day of the Lord. When does the day of the Lord come? 6,000, right? The 7th day, the end of the 6th day, beginning of the 7th day. 6,000 is 60 here, and Isaac is a picture of the father. And who gives birth? His wife. This is Israel. And she gives birth to the male child. But there's two born at the same time. One is the ultimate perfection, and one is the ultimate evil. And I want to prove it to you that he is the ultimate evil. Now, don't believe me yet. I'm going to prove my point. But he is the ultimate evil. Essov became a skillful hunter. We're going to look at what that is in Hebrew. A man of the field. An ish hasadeh. Ish means man. Hasadeh means field. We're going to look at what that means. But Jacob was a perfect man, and that is what it says in Hebrew. Ish tam. Tam has no other meaning but perfect. Perfect. Complete. Perfect. You cannot add anything to it. There's nothing wrong with it. It is perfect. That's tam. Or tamim, same word. He's an ish tam. He's a baby, and he's an ish tam. How can that be true? And he grew up, and he's still an ish tam. How can that be true? So that's what we're going to look at. Right. Now, Isaac, this is why I hated or didn't like Isaac. This is why I didn't like him. I did not appreciate the man because it says these stupid words. God, why'd you put this in the Bible? Isaac loved Essov. That's the bad guy. Right? Why does he love the bad guy instead of the good guy? Isaac loved Essov. Why? Because he had a taste for the game. What it says in Hebrew is the venison, specifically venison. But Rivkah loved Jacob. Jacob is the good guy, Essov is the bad guy, but Isaac loves the bad guy. So that's why I didn't like Isaac. Okay? Now we're going to look at the second part. We're going to look at this guy, Isaac, who I never looked at before. And here's what we're going to look at about Isaac that will hopefully bring these many things that we're looking at together. I'm going to list all the stuff we're looking at. Hopefully this will bring them all together. Number one is the date. We are in the month of Kislev, aren't we? Did we start the new moon of Kislev, or is it? Yeah? Okay. I missed the new moon. So we are in Kislev. Kislev is the month of Hanukkah. And Hanukkah, even though it's not in the scriptures, is the most important holiday in all of Judaism. Rosh Hashanah is the most important date. Rosh Hashanah has the most important themes, but Hanukkah is the most important historical narrative to understand. It is in the scriptures. It's all over the scriptures, but it never is given us as a festival in the scriptures. My chapter on Hanukkah is 100+ pages long. Rosh Hashanah is less than that. Rosh Hashanah, which has more themes and more scriptures than any other time, is smaller in my Pictures Restored book than the Hanukkah chapter. Why? Because nobody knows how important Hanukkah is. And there's so much in it that I had to go like this. I had to go around and around and get closer and closer and closer and closer and then hit the bullseye. Because there's a lot to understand. You can't just say, and as we all know, this and that about Hanukkah, because nobody knows. So I had to explain it all. So it's a big chapter. I am not going to explain all that. But I'm going to give you the highlights of what Hanukkah talks about and why it's so important. That's number one. Number two, Jacob and Essov are the most important. Like I said, it's the pinnacle. It's the top. It's the summation of all good and all evil in the Bible. And that's how the Bible's written. If you don't understand that little construct, that little world, you cannot understand the Bible. You can't. Because that's the world in which it comes from. The word is schema in Greek. It's world or sphere. The whole sphere, the whole world that the Bible is built and written and given by God in is this: Judaism and everything else. Yeah. Everything. Everything else. And if you don't understand that, it is literally impossible to understand the Bible. What most believers do is they go Old Testament, New Testament. And that is wrong. The whole Bible is one, and it is all based from the same world. But that world is cut in half. And it's all evil and all good. Walk of the two ways. There's only two ways. Okay, that's the construct that we're going to deal with. Now, the third thing is this. Third thing we're going to try to tie together is this, that Isaac did the works, the deeds, the walk of Abraham, which was Jewish, before Judaism was given. And we've looked at, the fact that Abraham did the law. We've looked at it, 4 weeks in a row now? Is this the fourth week that we've dealt with this? Yes? No? Third or fourth? Okay. So it keeps coming up. Why? Because we're looking at Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob. And the whole basis for that tent, that tribe, was that Abraham did Judaism. That's how he lived before Judaism was given. So these are the things I'm going to try to tie together. Now here's the verses I'm going to use to do it. Genesis 26. Isaac redug the wells of water which had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, because the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. And he, Isaac, gave them, the wells, the same names that his father had given them. And Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of Maim Chaim, living water. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over it too. Then he moved away from there and dug another well. And they didn't quarrel over that one, so they named it, or he named it, Rehovot, which means like space, or, a wide place. The Lord has made a wide place for us, and will be fruitful in the land. That's going to tie all of this together, believe it or not. Digging wells. All right, so what I'm saying is that we can walk one way or we can walk the other. And in Judaism, all the sages, and this drives Reformed Jews crazy. They hate this so much that Essov is bad. We were in Reformed Judaism going to services for 11 years. 11 years. And then, went once in a while before that, and once in a while after that. And every single time we came to Tol'dot, and we'd talk about Essov, everybody's hackles would go up in the Torah study. And they'd go, yes, but Essov, yes, but he's the child of his father. And he wasn't that. Now look, if we reread the text, and it would just give them fits. Because all with 100% conglomeration of thesis. That means everybody said exactly the same thing, and they wrote about it. Everybody's thesis was the same. Essov is evil, Jacob is good. Period. From the womb. From the womb. I know what you're thinking. Not yet. Now, Ecclesiastes 10:2 says this weird thing that always kind of boggled me. A wise person's heart is toward the right, but the foolish person's heart is toward the left. That, we like shades of gray. Come on. There is. It's about as black and white as you can get. Evil guys are to the left, good guys are to the right. Wait a minute, Yeshua said that.
Sheep to the right, goats to the left.
Right. Sheep to the right, goats to the left. Remember we looked at the verse in Joel that he was quoting that said that all the Gentiles will be gathered to the valley of Jehoshaphat? Remember? Last week? And God would judge between all the nations for how they treated his children, the Jews? Well, here's another verse that he was quoting. Bad to the left, good to the right. Why? Because in life, there's only two ways to go. You can walk to the left or you can walk to the right. The problem is this. We don't know how to walk to the right. We don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't. I mean, I do some stuff I get, but I don't know how to walk to the right. If we sat with anybody from even like the Middle Ages in Judaism, we'd go, what are you talking about? And then go back farther, like the 1100s, like Rashi and Maimonides. We'd say, what are you saying? Where are you getting this from? What are you saying? Go back farther to the first century. Forget it. We are so coated in sin that our minds are just twisted and perverted. And we don't know what's good like Jews used to know what's good. We don't. But there's only two ways, and so I'm saying Essov is to the left and Judah's to the right. Jacob's to the right. Matthew 13:38 says the field is the world. Now up here in our verse that we're looking at, it says that Essov became a skillful hunter, ish hasadeh, a man of the field. Well, what's the field? Yeshua says the field is the world. What gives him the right to say that? And don't say, he's God. He's the Messiah. That's not good enough. It's in the scriptures about 112 times. That's what gives him the right to say it. It's all over the Old Testament, the Tanakh. All over the Tanakh, it talks about the field being the world. It's not a big, difficult statement. So the field is the world. He's a man of the world. That's Essov. He's a man of the world. From the time he's a baby. But Yaakov was an ishtam, a perfect man living in tents. Guess whose tents those are? Shem and Ever. In other words, he was a yeshiva bocher. You know what that is? A yeshiva bocher? It's those little skinny Jews who walk around and they don't know how to play baseball and they just go to the yeshiva all day long and they daven and they yell at each other about the Torah. Then they go home and they say, hey, mommy. They're mama's boys. Yeshiva bochers. Mama's boys. That's what the yeshiva bocher is. They don't know how to do anything physical. They don't know how to do construction or milk a cow or whatever. All they know how to do is study the Torah because that's what they want. They want the Torah. They want the spiritual stuff. But it makes them like idiots in the world. Now you know why I need so much help with physical stuff. That's exactly the reason. I never did anything physical. I just studied, and did art. That's all I cared about. So then when it comes to the world, I'm like, I don't know. So that's Jacob. From the time he's a baby. Now in Ephesians 4:13, I teach this when we're doing the 5 gifts of the counting of the Omer. It says this. Until we all attain, being the believers, until all the believers attain to the unity of the faith. There's a joke. Until we all attain to the unity of what faith? Christianity? No. And the knowledge of the Son of God to an ish tam. If you just put this in like the language of normal people, not us, you would say, until we all end up believing everything in Judaism, to a knowledge of Yeshua, until we are Jewish, like Jacob, the Ish Tam. That's what it's saying, until we all look like Jacob. Well, who's Jacob? What's his other name?
Israel.
Yeah, not Christ. Israel. All right. To the measure of the stature which belongs to the fullness of the Messiah. That's for another time. So, all I'm saying is that the believers are supposed to be like Yaakov, not like Essov. However, there's a problem. The believers are not. And I know I'm talking in big general statements. I'm going to prove everything I'm saying. But for the most part, generally speaking, the believers are not like Jacob. Like Essov. The believers are like Jacob. They're like Essov. I'm going to show you why I say this. The believers are supposed to be like Israel. And they all go, for the most part, they all say, well, I'm part of spiritual Israel. Goody for you. Why don't you do the Jewish prayers? Well, I'm part of spiritual Israel. Yeah, but you're supposed to look and sound and talk like this dude Jacob. Israel. Jacob. Now, Jacob was a liar and a thief and a manipulator and a jerk. He was a real jerk. But he loved his mama. That's why that book is called that, by the way. There's a book that was written, I think, in the 90s about all the Jewish crooks. Like, there was a Jewish mafia. Did you know that? It's about all the Jewish crooks, and it's called But He Loved His Mother. Because that's Judaism. In Judaism, you have the yeshiva bochers, and they're mama's boys. But some of them are rough. So, in Midrash Tanhuma, there's a whole bunch of comments. Midrash means stories. These are parables, or stories written about the Torah. They might be true and they might not be true, but they are true. What I mean by that is the facts might not be accurate, but the picture is absolutely 100% right. That's why it was kept in a book in Judaism. Might be true. And in Midrash Tanhuma it says this, that Essov was loved by his father Isaac. It says in the Hebrew, it says because Isaac loved his son because he got the venison from him. But what the rabbis say, they go through all these word studies in the Tanakh, and what they come up with is this, that Essov lied and manipulated his father like this. From the time he was a little kid, he would come into his father's tents and say, "Father, are we to tithe the salt from this meal?" And his father would say, "Oh, I wish I had another son that was such a yeshiva bocher like Essov. I wish I had more children that loved the Torah like this guy." Because he would say halachic questions to him. He'd say, "Are we supposed to do this at this time? At this festival? Are we supposed to tithe this? Are we supposed to give this? Is this clean or unclean? Are we allowed to carry this and then carry this? Are we allowed to eat milk and then eat meat?" And he was always talking Jewish stuff to his father. And he captured him like game. So when it says that he loved him because of the venison that he brought him, it wasn't the venison he brought him. He brought his father as venison. His father was like meat to him. And he captured him, and he ate him, and he got him. And that's why Isaac, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, being so righteous and so upright and so godly, fell for it. And he loved his son Essov because he thought his son Essov loved Judaism. And he hated it with everything in him, which we see later in the story, because he goes to kill his brother Israel immediately after his father gives Jacob the blessing. Now, Psalm 81:15 says this. These are verses that these are verses that the rabbis quote to tell us what Essov was like. Psalm 81, "Those who hate the Lord would pretend to listen to him." Essov sounded good. He sounded right. He sounded like somebody who knows God. He sounds like it. But he's pretending. Proverbs 26, "One who hates disguises it with his lips, but inside he harbors," what does it say? Lies. Lies. Now, I told you a little while ago that Jacob lied. He lied, he manipulated, he stole. He sure did. But this is a different kind of lie from what Jacob did. This is lies that stay inside. and they fester, and they make you want to murder. But they don't come out as murdered, they come out like this. How are you doing today? You know, I feel that the Lord would say unto you, and they catch you, and they grab you, and they lie to you to murder you. This is still going on today. It's no big deal. I mean, everybody knows this. Everybody's seen this. Everybody's heard it. But that's totally different from a Jewish lie. A Jewish lie is like this. You know, when I went to the hooker the other day, just to get a reaction to see what the person does. You what? Why are you so surprised? And then you start talking to the person and see what's inside of them. That's how a Jew lies. A Jew lies to get what's on the inside, to get it to come out. It is manipulative, and it's lying, and it's crass. But guess what? I'm going to show you that God does that, and he taught it to Israel, and we're supposed to do it. At least I'll show you some about that on the next slide. Proverbs 29:10 says this: people of bloodshed, murderers, hate the Tam. Who's the Ishtam? Who's the Ishtam? Jacob, Israel. People of murder hate the one who's Tam. Who are the people who are Tam in the Bible? The only ones it's said about is Jacob. Anybody else know who? No. Noah, you're close. And Yeshua. And that's it. That's it. So the one of bloodshed, I'm going to tell you a story. Nope. I'll tell you a story. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Doug, if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. So here's the story. The story is that when the Torah was given on Mount Sinai, that God offered it, the Torah, to all the nations of the world first, before he offered it to Israel, right? And he says to Essov, the Edomites, he says, Edomites, I offer you the Torah, my word, everything about me, life itself. And he says, do you accept it? And they go, what's in it? And he says, thou shalt not murder. And they say, oh, we can't do that. Our entire culture is based on our father Essov. And everything about Essov is bloodshed, is murder. So no thank you. Thank you, but no thank you. Okay? Hebrews 12 says this. This is a trip. I don't know if you ever paid attention to this. That there be no sexually immoral or godless person like Essov, who sold his own birthright for a meal. Everybody talks about that. He sold his own birthright for a meal. But nobody ever quotes that part. He is totally without God. And he's in the tent of Isaac and Rivka. How did Isaac and Rivka end up with a jerk like this? A horrible, murderous, I'm going to say anti-Semite, like this. Isn't that weird? He grew up, no, that's okay. He grew up in the tent of Isaac and his wife Rivka. Isaac was well, here's what some of the sages say about Isaac. I don't know if this is true, but I know the picture's true. They say, some of the rabbis say, some disagree with this, by the way, some of the sages. But he said, the sage said, two of them said, if you took all the righteous people in the world and put them on one side of the scale, they would be balanced out by one person, Isaac. That's how righteous he is. How many Torah portions do we have about Isaac? Do you know? Half of one. Half of one. Half a Torah portion. How many Torah portions do we have about Abraham? Do you know? 4. 4. Do you know how many we have about Jacob? I think that's also 4. Isaac gets a half a Torah portion. He was more righteous than you can imagine. But he's not called an Ish Tam. His son is Jacob. So this is a guy who gave birth and raised Essov, this murderous, bloodthirsty, lying hypocrite. Okay, that's Essov. Now what about Jacob? Jacob sounds bad, but he's good. Essov sounds good, but he's bad. Why did Jacob manipulate and lie even though he was holy? That's the question. Because he did, didn't he? He stole the birthright, didn't he? He stole the blessing from Essov, didn't he? Who told him to do it? His mom. He's a mama's boy. Right? His mom told him to do it, so he did it. I'm sure he wanted to do it too, but he did it. And then later on, who did he rip off? He ripped off Laban, his father-in-law. His father-in-law ripped him off, and so he ripped him off back. But he did it in a way that God showed him how to do it. God said, go have your sheep mate in front of the feeding troughs and peel some branches and put white, black branches on the feeding trough. This is in the Bible. And then by this means, you will capture all the stuff that was stolen from you. God told him to lie and manipulate and steal. You see what I'm saying? That was God's idea. Here's another one that God lied. God lied. He says, when the two armies, the army of the north of Israel and the south of Judah, were coming together in battle, God said, do not have anything to do with the army of the south, army of the north, the army of the north, army of the south, Judah. Judah, stay away from Israel. They're evil. Stay away from northern Israel. Don't have anything to do with them. And the army of the king of the south said, oh, yeah, that's okay. And he commingled with them and had their children together. So now you got children, seed, passing in between north and south, and God never wanted that to happen. And so what does he do? He stirs up a battle between the north and the south. North and the south. He stirs up a battle between them, and in heaven we get to see what's happening. God has to get the king of the north out to battle, but he don't want to go. And so we get to see what's happening in heaven. This guy named Mikayahu, is brought in. He's a prophet. And the king says, tell us what you saw, what you heard, O man of God. And Micaiah lies and says, go up to battle, you're going to win. And he says, quit lying to me. Tell me the truth. And he says, okay, this is what I saw. God was on his throne, and all these spirits came before him. And one offered one idea, and another offered another idea. And God said, I like that idea. Go ahead and lie. Entice the king through the mouth of all of his lying prophets to tell a lie and bring him out to battle so I can kill him. Now, if that's not manipulation and lying, nothing is. There is a good lie. There is a good manipulation. But it has to be from God. It has to be. Or it can be from the other side. There's only two ways. So don't think that just because he lied and manipulated, he wasn't an Ishtam, a holy person, a perfect person. Here's a verse that shows what I mean. 1 Samuel 22, 26, and 27. This is David's words. David says, with the one who is merciful, you show yourself merciful. Okay. With the tamim, you show yourself to be tamim. With the perfect, you show yourself perfect. Who is called perfect in the Bible? Come on. Jacob. With Jacob, tamim, you show yourself to be tamim. With the pure, you show yourself to be pure. Now look, here's where everybody gets lost. With the perverted, with the twisted, you show yourself tafal. Now tafal means unsalted, unseasoned, insipid. You know what insipid means? Gross. Gross. That's what we call it now. Gross. Spit out. Feh, pui, pui. God shows himself like that. God. This is God. This is about God. With the perverted, God shows himself to be disgusting. Spit out. You see what I'm saying? Yes? No? You following this? Okay. Silly, foolish, false, lying. It just depends. It depends. You cannot put things in a box like this is holy and this is unholy. You can't do that. You do Judaism, you learn from Judaism as it talks to you. Period. Or you don't. Everything else we do is garbage. Everything. There's only two ways. Yes?
I just thought about that other scripture that says, to us, answer a fool in his folly.
To us, answer a fool in his folly. That's correct. It depends on who's talking to you, who's doing what to you. Just like with God, it depends on who's dealing with God and what that person does to God or to his children. You get what I'm saying? So far? Yes or no? Because I can't take you forward unless you get what I'm saying here. Yes? No? Yes. Any questions? Because I'll field questions now. Yes? I don't want to do comments. I want a question, if you have a question. Because I'm trying to get everybody on the same page right now. If you don't understand what I'm saying, I want you to ask a question right now. Okay, so we're all on the same page, yes? Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Jacob's a good guy. There you go. But what I'm trying to show you is this, that just because you think something looks good does not make it good. Just because you think something looks bad does not make it bad. The problem is one problem: religion. That's the whole problem. Religion defines for everybody in some way or another that's good and that's bad. And every one of them without exception in our culture says we use the Bible to do that, right? Right? Okay, the Bible says, I'm just quoting the Word of God.
In English.
In English, right? So obviously something's wrong. Obviously there's a lie happening. So I'm going to try to define for you as clearly as I possibly can what that lie is. So that you can see it, that it's not on the outside, it's on the inside, like Essov. It is concealed, it's hidden, and it's hidden with a face like this. Good morning. How are y'all doing, beloved of the Lord? You feeling all right? Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, beloved. You're just so beloved, beloved. I love you, beloved, beloved. And it looks so sweet and innocent and beautiful and kind and merciful on the outside, but on the inside, it might be Essov. Might be. All right, Malachi 1:2. Wait, before we read this. How many people in the Bible does God say he hates? I'm not talking about like I hate murder, I hate lying, I hate this, I hate that. How many humans named by name does God say he hates? You think one? You think one? You think it was just one? Does that? Do you all agree? How many? How many people did God say? You guys read the New Testament all the time. How many people does God say he hates? Think about this. I did the research. I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked under many, many different words in the Strong's Concordance. There's only one human being that God ever said he hated. Is that not weird? That's mind-blowing to me. He's the only one that God ever named by name that he hates. God is love. Thank you. God is love. Think about what God is saying here. I'm love for everything and everybody in the whole universe. I hate Essov. He doesn't even say he hates the false Messiah. Right? He doesn't even say, I hate the Antichrist. He says, I hate this one guy, a twin born to the best guy who ever lived, who was a perfect man, Jacob, Israel. It's pretty weird, right? That's as black and white, as dichotomous as you can get. What did I say?
You said he was born to Jacob.
You said he was born to Jacob.
Born with Jacob. Born with Jacob. Twin to Jacob. The best guy who ever lived. The perfect man. I mean, that you can't get any more black and white than that, can you? Does that bother you? That out of the same womb of Rivka came the best and the worst at the same time, and then God sets up the whole Bible going best, worst, best, worst, best, worst, best, worst. And yet nobody knows what the best and the worst is. Yes. I can't hear you, hon.
Well, I think I read somewhere that Esau represents the flesh, the fleshly life. Is that what it says?
The Bible never says he represents the flesh. Hold on. Let me clear it up. Good question. The Bible never says he represents the flesh. It says he's a man of the field. Ish hasadeh, and Yeshua said the field is the world. He doesn't say it's the flesh. Right? So you're proving my point that God says black, white, black, white, black, white, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, left, right, left, right, left, right, and nobody knows what is left and right, bad or good or white or black. You see what I'm saying? You just proved my point. What you heard was wrong. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's black or white. See what I'm saying? So obviously God has a construct. He has a world that he's created that only a few people know about. They're called Jews. They're the only ones, it used to. Nowadays, who knows? But used to be, the Jews were the only group of humans on the planet who knew this world that God created. And they invited people in and said, here, let me show you how this works. And then all these people came in and they murdered all the Jews. That's what happened. I have loved you, says the Lord. This is God talking to Judah and the priests of Judah, the priests that were living with Judah in Jerusalem in the Second Temple period. I have loved you, says the Lord, but you say, how have you loved us? How have you loved us? Look how we're living. Look at all the garbage, the murder that's happened with us. Well, wasn't Essov Jacob's brother? But I've loved Jacob. But I hated Essov. That is just a mind-blowing verse. And then it's quoted in Romans by Shaul. And he says, even though through Rivka, even though the twins weren't even born, and they hadn't even done anything, good or bad, everybody gets lost with the rest of the words. So that God's purpose according to his choice would stand, and I even cut out a bunch. Because nobody knows what any of those words mean. Because they are not simple words, they're difficult words. So just stick with what we know. Though the twins were not yet born and had not done anything good or bad, it was said to her, the older will serve the younger, just as it is written, Jacob I have loved, but Essov I have hated. And if you focus on all this other stuff, God's purpose according to his choice would stand, you end up creating religions like they did. You know what they're called? They even have names. Calvinism. You ever heard of it? It's a whole gigantic religion in Christianity. And it's based on that. Because they didn't just look at the simple picture. One of the guys is pure evil and one of the guys is pure good. The one that is pure good is a Jew. The one who's pure evil is not. It's simple. Jacob I have loved, but Essov I have hated. The only person that God ever said he hated. I want you to remember that. If you don't remember anything from what I say today, remember that God said he hated one guy by name. And if we believe Shaul, it was before he was born. Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Just that one comment.
Say it again?
Just one thing.
Yes, sir.
And where it says that, where he hates the guy,
Uh-huh.
it's in 9/11.
Oh.
That's scary.
I'm not even going to put that on tape. All right. That's funny. So, hopefully, when you think about Essov, your mind is changing from thinking about Arabs and Muslims. Because he's not. He's not. He's a half of a whole world. The other half is good, his half is bad. It's a whole world. It's a whole idea. It's a whole way of life. It's not Muslims. It's not Arabs. It's not the sons of Ishmael. He wasn't a son of Ishmael. He was a son of Isaac. So, here's what was just hinted at. Who is Edom now? Who is Edom now? He's not the Arabs. When I say Edom, that's Essov's other name. Remember when he came out all red and hair like a ginger. He came out a ginger, but like an orangutan. Like an orangutan. Like orange hair all over the guy. Like a hairy monkey, orange monkey. So he was named Red. Yo, Red. He was named Edom. And then, later on, 15 years later, when his brother rips him off for the blessing, he tells his brother, I don't care about the blessing. Give me some of that Edom. That red. They translate it red stuff or lentil soup. I've seen it translated. It's not. In Hebrew, it's Edom. Red. I want it as red as I can get it.
Red chili.
And it's not chili colorado. It's red. Right. Okay. So who is Edom today? Psalm 137 is one of the weirdest passages in the Bible. This was written by either David or somebody during the time of David, one of his singers. Psalm 137. Maybe there's a heading there. Somebody can look it up. I don't know who wrote this. Isn't that awful? Remember, Lord, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem? What did Edom ever do to Jerusalem? They never even got near it. They were way down south, in the Negev, and below the Negev. It doesn't say who wrote it. Okay. All right, well, this is written by either David or one of David's singers. So, way before the temple was built, yes? Right? Solomon built the temple, not David. And way before it was destroyed. Who destroyed the first temple? Babylon, right? 400 and some years later, after it was built. And this is before it was built. And he says, remember, Lord, remember against the sons of Edom the day of Jerusalem. They didn't do anything to Jerusalem. There was nothing in Jerusalem during, when Edom was around. Those who said, the sons of Edom, who said, raise it. That means like bring it down to its foundation. In other words, destroy the what? There is no temple. But yes, it's talking about the temple. But there is no temple. So this is a prophecy again about the day of the Lord in the future. There is no temple. It cannot be destroyed. And Edom didn't destroy it anyway. Did they? Who destroyed the first temple? Okay, and it was 400 and some years after it was built, right? Did Edom destroy it? Huh? Please answer me.
Yes, no.
No. Did Edom destroy the temple 400 and some years after it was built? No. Who destroyed it? Okay, and yet it says, remember against the sons of Edom, who said, bring it down to its foundation. And then look what it says immediately after that. Daughter of Babylon, the ones who did destroy it. You devastated one, blessed will be the one who repays you with the retribution with which you have repaid us. Happy, blessed, Baruch, blessed will be the one who seizes and dashes your babies against the rock. It's harsh, right? But it doesn't say angry will be. It says blessed will be. Right? It's weird, isn't it? All right. Who destroyed the temple? Who destroyed the temple? Who is the prophecy against? And then against Babylon. It's against two people, Edom and Babylon. Those are the two people that destroyed the temple, because the first one was destroyed by Babylon. Who destroyed the second temple? That's Edom. That's Edom. These are not my words. These are the words of 100% of the sages. You never get 100% about almost anything. I think there's 4 things that 100% of the rabbis agree with. This is one of them. Do you hear what I'm saying? Edom is Rome. This is where I part ways with Christianity, Messianic Judaism, Hebrew Christianity, Hebrew roots, and I think that's it. This is where we part ways. One of us is right and one of us is wrong. And I'm such a weird religious freak, I think I'm right. So, this is why this congregation has always been, my old congregation and my new congregation has always been, and always will be, I predict, small. Because this is the point right here where everything hits the wall. Right here. I am saying, because the rabbis are saying, which I'm going to show you, that Rome is Edom. It is the only person God ever said he hates. Think about that. Now think about this. Every single act, every prayer, every misunderstanding of the Bible, every mistranslation of the Bible, every thought that is different from Judaism has a name. It's called Hellenism. And it is the root of all Christianity. One end to the other. Now, once in a while, the Holy Spirit is able to wedge herself in there and get a few things across. But not much. The whole thing is coded in red. Yes, sir?
Some rabbinical sources claim that was written by Yirmiyahu.
Some rabbinical sources claim that Psalm 137 was written by Yirmiyahu. And you know why they say that? You know why they say that? First of all, they're not sages from before, from the first century. They're sages from far after. And those are not sages. They're rabbis, if you go check. Those rabbis believe in that the things that are written as prophecy are not prophecy. They're just a guy who watched it happen and looked and said, yeah, hey, remember when this happened? They don't believe in prophecy, those rabbis. But thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to say this again. The root of Christianity. I mean, now it's kind of fuzzy nowadays. But if you were alive in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th, 14th, 15th, 18th century, you would immediately know what the root of all of Christianity is. It's all Rome. It all goes back to Rome. And the Pope and whatever. I don't even know the names for stuff in Christianity. The ecclesiastical authorities that came from Rome and taught, the world of Europe, Christianity. And then after that, the Byzantine Empire. You know what the Byzantine Empire is? The Ottoman Empire? It is the Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which is exactly like Rome. And then they took over and they spread Christianity to Europe. 100% of it. This is where we part ways. Because there are two ways. There's two ways. There's to the left and to the right. To the right is wisdom and righteousness. To the left is evil. And God only said he hated one person, Edom. So these are not my words. These are the words of the sages. Now this is from the Jewish Encyclopedia. Now when we quote the Jewish Encyclopedia, what that means is somebody read 100 entries by sages and said, here's what sages believed. Just like I do. I just sum stuff up. The name Edom is used by the Talmudists. That's the people who wrote the Talmud. Who are the Talmudists? The sages. For the Roman Empire. I have it all in red. You see that? It's coded in red. And they applied to Rome every passage of the Bible referring to Edom. I'm going to read that again. They applied to Rome every passage of the Bible referring to Edom or Esau. Not Michael Washer did. They did. In Leviticus Rabbah 13, Rome, under the name of Edom, is compared to a wild pig. Do you know why? Because in the Talmud, one of the sages said this, talking about our Torah portion today. He says, and Essov lays in his own filth, puts out his cloven hooves, because a clean creature has to have cloven hooves and chew cud. A wild pig with cloven hooves, he puts out his cloven hooves and said, see, I am clean, Daddy. Are we supposed to tithe on the salt? Right. That's where this comes from. That's the portion of the Talmud that this comes from. Daddy, are we supposed to tithe from the salt? Oh, my son is such a yeshiva booker. He's amazing. That's where it comes from. And the symbolic name Seir was used by the poets of the Middle Ages not only for Rome, but also for Christianity. Okay? I know what's inside of you. Only because I have felt it too. Like for a few weeks, maybe months, something inside of you is like, something's wrong. But you can't quite put your finger on it. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. I'm going to give you the exact, precise understanding and words to put a finger on it, so that you can tell other people when you're asked. But whatever you do, don't come off like I did, black and white. Be kind, be loving, be merciful. Okay? Edom, the nation descended from Essov, was also a symbol for Israel's eternal enemy. Eternal enemy? Forever? Well, are you eternally at war with Essov, Edom, Rome. I'll say it. Are you at war with Christianity?
Pretty much. Yes.
Yeah.
You better do it with love. Not like I did. Edom participated in the destruction of the first temple. Now the reason they're saying that, the authors of this book, is because of that verse we read, Psalm 137. They read that, and they read it wrong. They read it like, oh, Edom was standing there at the destruction of the temple saying, bring it down to the ground. They weren't. They are Rome. They weren't there with Babylon. There's nothing in the scriptures that says that. So that's why they're saying this, that Edom participated in the destruction of the first temple. Not true. And their legendary descendants, the Romans, destroyed the second. That's true. Herod, the despised agent of Rome, was an Edomite. Did you know that? Did you know he was an Edomite? Yeah. He was a convert from Edom. When Rome embraced Christianity, whoa! When what embraced what? When did Rome embrace Christianity?
Constantine.
That's what everybody says. You are wrong. You're way off. Yes, it happened 120 years before Constantine was born. And by the way, I read those passages to you last year. I can't remember what the Torah portion was. We went through that. When Rome embraced Christianity, Edom became a symbol for Christian Rome. You cannot make it any simpler than that. Now, you can choose to believe that, or you can choose to not believe it. It's up to you. I'm just trying to give you what I have discovered. And then, for Christianity in general. Now, this is an amazing book, the Encyclopedia of Jewish, what's that word for symbols? Ot. Otot. The Encyclopedia of Jewish Otot, symbols. Written by two women. Fabulous book. Ellen Frankel and Betsy Planken-Tuch. Now look at this. This is the Encyclopedia of the Jewish Religion. Also a fantastic book by Zvi Werblowski. The name Essov, or Edom, is used as an eponym. You know what an eponym is?
Like interchangeable?
No, it means like a cuss word, like a byword. Only Jews don't cuss. There's no such thing as cussing in Hebrew. And so it's like a slur, like a curse, like a bad word. The name Essov or Edom is used as a curse for Rome. And in medieval Hebrew literature for any anti-Jewish regime, Christianity in particular. This should bother you. This should bother you. This is you. Isn't it? All of a sudden, everybody's gotten silent. This is you. You say not anymore. It is still you. It is.
So basically,
What happens to the apostles way back then that wrote
They were Jews.
Yes, they wrote off, the scriptures, right?
The apostles were Jews. They wrote the scriptures, right?
When that,
Yes. They were killed. They were murdered.
yeah, all of them.
Yep, all of them. Like I said, there's this huge Jewish world that God created, gave to the Jews. The Jews had it. They said, here, Gentiles, come on in. As soon as the Gentiles came in, what do? They murdered all the Jews in there. And they took over and they painted it red.
But the scripture is still there.
It doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's deal with one thing. Let's not play devil's advocate. Let's get the facts in front of us first. I'm not even done. So if we get everything laid out, everything, you're going to have an answer. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you an answer, but we got to get all the facts in front of us first, okay? So you will stay with me until I get all the facts out? Okay, just hang with me. I know this is rough, but I'm going to say it again. That's you. I don't care how you feel about, not anymore, I'm not like that anymore. Yeah, you are. You still have the same thoughts that were crammed into you from the time you were a little baby. Then it didn't go away overnight because you read a few pages in the Bible. That didn't happen. You learned a few Jewish tricks. That didn't take all that out of you, did it? Did you magically wake up one day and go, I understand Judaism?
No, still working on it.
Yes.
Troubles show up in our lives. That just
That's exactly right. As soon as trouble shows up, your first instinct is to go back to what you know. That's exactly right. We go back to what we know, what we've been taught, what we're used to, our habits, our training. I do too. Now I am going to say, that's you. I'm saying that on purpose. But I have the same problems that I revert back to my training, my problems, my Hellenism, my Edom. Me too. Only I've got a little something up on you because I'm a Jew.
you're a little higher up Jacob's ladder.
I got to get that on. You're a little higher up Jacob's ladder. Yeah. That's good. That's a good one. All right, so let's look at Edom. Why does God say, Edom I hated? Before he was born, Essov I hate. And the Jews all look at the passages about Edom and Essov and say, that's Rome. What gives them the right to say that? What gives them the right to say that? That's what I want to show you. Here's where they get the right to say it. All right, I'm walking through this as carefully as I can so that you understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm not going to leave you with, hopefully, with any questions. Hopefully. All right, we're going to walk through Daniel. There's 3 big prophecies in Daniel. If you don't understand them, you cannot understand anything about the day of the Lord or prophecy in general. Anything. Daniel 2. Nebuchadnezzar's shown this image in a dream. It's got a head of gold, silver, chest and arms, belly and groin. It's talking about the seed in the description. So it's not chest and belly and thighs. It's not thighs. It's the groin and the belly of bronze. Below that is legs of iron. And then after that is toes that are mixed with iron and clay. And Daniel interprets this. Not only does he tell the king, this is what you saw in a dream, he interprets it for him. If that doesn't freak you out, it should, that he told the king what he saw in a dream. And he interprets it. He says, Babylon is the head of gold. And after that will come a kingdom. It's got 2 arms. That means it's got 2 parts. Medo-Persia. The Medes and the Persians mixed together. There was two great powers together. Medes came first, and the Persians kind of took them over. Then the belly and loins of bronze, and that's Greece. Greece. Okay? This is where all the trouble came. It wasn't Rome. It all started right here. Actually, right here. Bad seed. Exactly. Legs of iron is Rome. That's the biggest part of the whole body, isn't it? Right? Legs are bigger than everything else? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? No? Hello? Okay. What do you mean pretty much? If you chopped off somebody's legs and you chopped their body, it's separated, and you put them on a scale, the legs would weigh more than the body, the torso. Yeah. Unless the guy's like Jabba the Hutt. Yeah. And then the toes of iron and clay. Now he interprets it, and he says, he says that Babylon will be the first one, Medo-Persia the second one. Then he says another will come, Greece. Greece? Greece was a nothing then. And then later on, Rome. And Rome was nothing then. Just a little nothing. And then after that, 10 toes, mixed iron and clay. What is iron? Rome. Okay. Then in chapter 7, Daniel sees a vision, and he sees a lion with wings like an eagle. Then he sees a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth. Then he sees a leopard with 4 wings of a bird. Then he sees a thing. He can't even describe the Tyrannosaurus Rex. He can't even describe. He just says a horrible, terrible, indescribable thing. Godzilla, with big iron teeth. That's all he says. So the lion, he says, is Babylon. It's you, O king. You're Babylon. Then he says later on will come a bear, Medo-Persia. Bear. By the way, the bear is the most dangerous animal in the world. Did you know that? Not the lion. Bear would be a lion every day because they're faster, they're stronger, they can stand upright, and their teeth, their fangs, match the size of their claws. A lion's do not. They're smaller. Bears run fast. They can go 20 miles an hour. That's true. That's why they don't live together. So the lion comes first, then the bear, Medo-Persia, and then comes the leopard, and it's described as the fastest animal on earth with 4 wings connected to make it even faster. This guy's jet-powered, whoever it is. And he's got 4 wings and 4 heads. And then comes the indescribable thing with iron teeth, and that's Rome. So you would think this is just, Rome is just, that's why it's so evil, right? Okay, this is where the rabbis get it from. This is where the sages said, Essov, who God hates, is the most indescribable, horrible thing ever. It's Rome. This is where they developed this from. Now Daniel 8, next chapter. Stay with me. Then he sees another vision, Daniel does, and he sees a ram with 2 horns. That's Medo-Persia, just like the 2 arms, Medo-Persia. There's 2 of them. There's 2 horns on this ram. That's Medo-Persia. But then he sees a goat with 1 horn right in the middle of its head, and he charges at the ram and tramples. How does a goat trample a ram? A ram is stronger than a goat. But the ram tramples and tears apart the ram. Isn't that strange? What did I say? I'm sorry. Thank you. The goat tramples the ram and tears him up. It would never happen, but that's what happens. So the goat, it says he comes fast, jet-powered across the land to do this. So the goat has 1 horn. That's Greece. And he says that is the kingdom of Greece. The kingdom of Greece was nothing. It was nothing. It's just a bunch of naked guys running around. And then he gets more detailed and he says this. He says, the goat with the 1 horn, that 1 horn gets broken and it turns into 4 horns. And then out of that one of those horns comes a little horn. And it has this disgusting speech railing against God. And he speaks horrible curses, abominable things. And he sets himself up as God. That little tiny horn that comes out of one of the 4 horns that came out of the big horn on the goat. That's a lot, isn't it? That's 4 steps you got to follow. All right, and who is the goat? Who did he say it was?
Alexander.
Greece. It's Alexander the Great. He conquered the whole world. You know how long it took him to conquer the entire inhabited kingdoms of the earth? Do you know how long? 6 years? 3.5. That's right, 3.5 years. That's jet-powered. And he was a kid. He was in his 30s when he died. 33, I think. Sounds familiar. I think he was 33 when he died. Just like Yeshua. He conquered the whole world, died, And his kingdom was busted up into 4 kingdoms. Cassander, he was a general who had Greece and Macedonia. That's where Alexander was from. Lysimachus took Asia Minor, that's Turkey. Ptolemy took Egypt. And Seleucus took Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Israel. When it says Syria, that means Israel. Okay? So which one do you think the false Messiah will come from? This little horn saying all this horrible stuff against God. Where do you think it's going to come from? You think it's come from Greece, Asia Minor, Egypt, or Israel? We'll say. Israel. Yeah, Israel. Seleucus. Seleucus, he had a line. And the end of that line, or toward the end of that line, was Antiochus Epiphanes, the anti-hero in the story of Hanukkah. He is the false Messiah. Now, the false Messiah is coming in the day of the Lord, but he is the best, absolute, perfect picture, perfect model of the false Messiah. He set up the abomination of desolation. It says that in Daniel. He will set up this guy with the horn that comes from the 4 horns. Oh, I can't get this to work. He, all of a sudden I can't. He becomes the false Messiah that sets up the abomination of desolation and stops the sacrifices and defiles the temple. That hasn't even happened yet. But it did happen. It happened, and that's why we celebrate the story of Hanukkah. Because the Jews went in and cleaned it up and restored Judaism and reversed all the stuff that Antiochus Epiphanes, the son of Seleucus, the son, so to speak, of Alexander, the son of Greece, did. Therefore, if you were to define and describe the false Messiah, which one of the animals would you describe it as? Would you describe it as the lion, the bear, the leopard, or the Godzilla? Which one? Please answer me with wordy thingies. You'd say the leopard? Come on. I don't want spokesmen, I want everybody. You got to pick one. Give me an animal. We have lion, bear, leopard, Godzilla. Let's call him Godzilla. What would you say? No, there's no unknown. You got to say one. Say it. The Godzilla? Okay. So some of you say the Godzilla, some of you say the leopard. All right, that's fine. So let's do it again. The false Messiah, the one who defiles the temple, sets up the abomination of desolation, puts an idol of himself on the altar, stops Judaism, period. Comes from the horn, from the 4 horns, that came from the one big horn, that came from the goat, that came from Greece. So, which animal is the false Messiah from?
The leopard.
The leopard. The leopard. So if you were to define the false Messiah, you would say, he looks like a... What animal?
Leopard.
A leopard. That's exactly what the New Testament says. Not the Tanakh, the New Testament. That's what the New Testament says.
But they never change their spots.
There's a scripture that says that in Isaiah, that they never change their spots. Very good. Look at Revelation 13. The beast that I saw was like a... Well, who's the beast? No, I mean in this passage in the New Testament, who's the beast? It's the Antichrist, right? Right? Do you know that or not? Maybe I'm assuming too much. Is that what you were taught, that Revelation 13 is, and when it says the beast that I saw, that that's the false Messiah? Yes? No? Okay, go. We're on the same page. Yes, this is the false Messiah. That's correct. And he's described like a leopard. He's not described like the Tyrannosaurus Rex of God, like the Godzilla. He's described as the leopard. That's Greece. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Look at the verse that we're looking at now. But the children fought together inside of her before they were born. Here's what the rabbis say. The rabbis say that Rivka, she had a really, really hard pregnancy. You know this. And she'd be walking along, and she'd come to the tents of Shem and Ever, the house of Torah study, and the baby would leap inside of her. And it was, oh, God, that hurts. But it was when she was walking by house of Torah study. And then she'd be doing something else, and she'd be walking by a house of idolatry, or some Gentiles doing idolatry, and a baby would jump inside of her. Oh, that hurts so bad. What's happening? And it only happened near idolatry and near Torah study. That's what the rabbis say. And that's what caused her to go to the house of Shem and Ever to say, what's happening? And that's when she received the prophecy to figure out what was going on. There's twins in there. They're completely different nations. And one of them is going to serve the other one. One of them is more powerful than the other one. That's why. They were fighting before they were even born. The children fought together. That's what it says in Hebrew. That means they were fighting with each other.
Or trying to absorb the other one.
Yeah, trying to eat the other one. They fought together inside of her, and she said, I might as well just die. That's what caused her to say it. Well, here it is. The beast, Essov, Rome. Now, isn't that weird? Rome is Essov. But here the beast is not like Rome. It's like Greece. Who started Greece? Who was the first bad guy in the Bible of Greece? I told you about it. No, I told you about it a second ago. Who led Greece? Who was the one who was jet-powered, who blasted across the earth? Alexander the Great. He's the leader of Greece, and he is in the Bible, by the way. He is in the Bible. Don't think he's not. He is. He's not named by name, but he's there, and he's described. 4 times he's described. So, the beast, the false Messiah, if you had to define him, you'd say, very much like Alexander, very much like his child Antiochus Epiphanes, right? And who came after Greece? Rome. Why do you think the world says the Greco-Roman Empire? Because they're the same thing. They're the same thing. Rome is just like Greece on steroids. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's just more of what Greece started. Yes?
Yeah.
No, that would be iron and bronze. Okay, let's keep going. But good try. So, the beast was, well, let's read this whole thing. I'm sorry. The beast that I saw was like who?
Leopard.
Who? Who is it? Greece. Good. His feet were like that of a bear. Who's the bear?
Medo-Persia.
Medo-Persia. Very good. So he is like Greece. He walked like a bear. His mouth, he talked like a lion. Who's the lion? He talks like Babylon, like Nebuchadnezzar. And the dragon, that's Hasatan, gave him, the beast, his power and his throne and great authority. So what I'm saying to you is this. You're not as far removed from Hasatan, we're not as far removed from Hasatan as we think we are. Because there are still many, many, many tentacles from Hellenism. Hellenism means the way of the Greek. There's many tentacles from Hellenism that still keep us caught, trapped, locked. I don't care if you think there aren't. There are. You start talking to me for 20 minutes and you'll find out what a bunch of them are, because I'll tell you if you let me. I won't if you don't. I won't offer my opinion. So that's why it says the beast was like a leopard. The false Messiah's kingdom is as Greece. Now, Zechariah 9:13 is one of my favorite passages in the whole Bible, and nobody likes it, nobody quotes it, and I've never heard it ever talked about, except by me, which is sad. It's an awesome, awesome passage. And it's talking about the day of the Lord, and it is talking about the only holy war that will ever be or ever has been. I can't see. I can quote it from the song, but I think I want to quote it from the passage so I don't miss anything. Zechariah 9:13-14. Let's start in verse 11. As for you also, because of the blood of my covenant with you, I have set your prisoners free from the waterless pit. Return to the stronghold, O prisoners who have hope. To this very day, I'm declaring that I will restore double to you. And here's how I'll do it. He's going to explain how he restores double to Israel, because they've lost everything. God says, I will bend Judah, the entire tribe of, who's Judah? How do we call Judah?
Jews.
Right, thank you. What do we call Judah? Jews. Let's read it like that. I will bend the Jews as my bow, and I'll fill that bow with Ephraim. Who's Ephraim? Who's Ephraim? Who's Ephraim? Oh, come on, guys. Northern Israel, the 10 tribes of Israel. Judah's south, Israel's north. Northern Israel's north, Ephraim. All right, so let's read it like that. I can't tell if you're following me or not. I can't tell right now. Well, I can't tell you're following me. I will bend the Jews as my bow and fill that bow. The arrows will be the rest of Israel. Well, who's he going to shoot at? If he's got a bow and he's got an arrow, he's got to be shooting at something. What's he going to shoot at? Animals? We don't hunt. God doesn't hunt. That's the wrong way to kill an animal. He says, I will stir up your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Greece. That's the only time in the Bible that God says, I want that group to kill that group, and I'm going to do it. The other one's like he'll send Judah out to kill Ammonites or Amorites or whatever, but here, God is doing it. Do you see what I'm saying? God himself is going to go kill who? And he's going to do it by what weapon? Israel. Jews. I heard somebody say Judaism. That's correct. That's correct. Judaism. That's correct. Think about this. Judaism. You are so cute, Joe. Judaism is the weapon. I know. Imagine if I was trying. Judaism is the weapon that God is going to use to destroy Hellenism. Then make it happen. I can tell each and every one of you at least one little area that you can use Judaism to destroy some Hellenism in you, but you have to do the homework. And that's the problem. Some of you I talk to, by the way, I do this with me all the time. Eileen and I do it with each other all the time. So don't feel, picked on. I'll tell you, this is not a good picture. It's not a right picture. And here's why. And I'll say why. And then you go off in your world and you don't change a thing. You got to use Judaism as a tool to fight the Hellenism that is in you. It is in you. And God hates him. Hates. The only guy that God ever said he hated. Do you see what I'm saying now? Esau is Rome. Greece produced Rome. They're the same thing. They're the same thing. That's why God gave all that historical stuff in Daniel, so we could see the trail and how it worked. The only reason I have this here is to give a very, very, very tiny little thimbleful of this idea. This is just a thimble. The children fought together inside of her, and she said, if it's so, why am I? So we can walk like Essov, or we can walk like Jacob, but you cannot do both. Well, you can do both. Like you can walk like Jacob for about 10 seconds and then walk like Essov for a month and a half. but you can't do both at the same time. That's what I mean. So here's Alexander. This is an actual bust that they found of Alexander. There's only a few. And the most important thing about this, believe it or not, is his hair. And they wrote volumes in Greek writings about the hair and how important it was and how it makes him the picture of God. And then came, maybe about 75, 85 years later, this guy named Mithridates, and he's one of the many, many, many Greek kings after Alexander. And they're spread into 4 areas: Greece and Turkey and Syria and Egypt, right? This guy was up in Greece. And then came in the 180s, 190s, Antiochus Epiphanes. In 186 is when we read the story. That's the story of Hanukkah records what happened in 186 BCE. This is him. Look at how youthful he looks. This is him, struck on the same day. How can he look like this and look like this at the same time? You know how we know it's at the same time? Look at the back of the coin. It's exactly the same. This is called the obverse, other side of the coin. This is him as Zeus, sitting on the throne, and it has a little write-up in Greek there saying, Antiochus Epiphanes. You know what that means? No, not God with us, but that's close. God in flesh. Yeah, Epiphanes means God in flesh. Antiochus Epiphanes, Zeus on the throne, or Zeus enthroned. But look at him, youthful with that beautiful hair, long hair. It's getting, notice how the hair is long. And he's got a diadem, that's a crown. He looks so young. But at the same time, he's got even longer hair and a beard, like Zeus. So obviously, this ain't what the guy looked like. This is who they wanted him to be, or who he said he was. You think Mithridates looked like this? He was an old, fat, bald dude. This is not what they looked like. This is who they were to the world, which is a God-man. And it says, you can read it for yourself. There's hundreds and hundreds of books that say, Alexander the Great as God-man. Mithridates as God-man, Soromates as God-man, Dionysus as God-man. All these names of all these Hellenistic kings as God-man. These are not my words. Do you hear what I'm saying? You can see where this is going, I think, just by the graphics here. And it is disturbing. Here's Roy Matalkis. Who does that look like? Look at him. Long, beautiful coifs of hair. Starting to get pretty thin on the top. Tiny little Greek beard. And this is Roy Metalkis as God. It is not what he looked like. And later on, the last one, this is after the time of Yeshua, by the way. After the time of Yeshua, about the year 200, is this guy, Sotomates. If that is not Christ, nobody is. Why do you think that there's more pictures of a guy that existed when there was no photography and no descriptions of him than anybody on the planet? Why do you think there's so many pictures of him? Nobody knows what he looked like, except we know exactly what he looked like. He was a Jew, he was a rabbi, and he was forbidden to have long hair. Forbidden to have long hair. And he was forbidden to cut his beard. And yet, all you got to do is look at this is just a tip of the iceberg. All you have to do is do your own research and look at those coins of all the Hellenistic kings, and you can see what happens over time. The hair gets longer, the beard gets thinner, it gets flat up on top. All of this means something. All of it has meaning to it. And there's just no time to tell you what they mean right now. But I'm at least showing you a little bit. If this ain't him, nobody is. So think about what I'm saying. This is all a lie. Jesus being a God-man is nonsense. It didn't start in the Bible. It's not even in the Bible. Not even in the Bible. The Bible never says he was fully God and fully man. It doesn't say that. It says he was a Jew. It says he was God before he was born, and he lived as a Jew, and he died as a Jew, and after his resurrection, he took back what he was as God. He was not God on earth. So, this is where it all came from. All of this. This is where it all came from. All that nonsense about long hair and a little beard and I say unto you, hurt not a fly. That's all from Greece. It's all created like propaganda. Listen to me. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want anybody to get hurt or offended or mad or anything. I want you to feel good. But you need to hear this because it's laid out in the scripture so clearly, but we don't see it. You have this in you. You have this guy who would never hurt a fly. You have Rheumatalcus and Sotomates and Antiochus Epiphanes in you and in me because we're believers. And we got to get him out. And I think the only way to do that is to walk one way or the other way. And like somebody said, the only tool we have to do that is Judaism. But you got to use that tool. If you look like a Gentile and you talk Jew words, look like a Jew, not like a Gentile. It's not hard. You know what I'm saying? I didn't say that. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. If you look like a Gentile, but you talk like a Jew, talk Jew words, look like a Jew. So they match. That's all. It's simple. That's all you got to do. Make them match. Make them match. It will take some change on our part, for sure, but that's really all we got to do. And the more you learn and do Judaism, the more it talks to us, and the more we will come together. So we are not half of us hated by God and half of us loved by God. I mean, one person, half of me hated by God and half of me loved by God. That's what I mean. Yes.
What I keep seeing is that each and every one of us are the twins, okay? And
Yes, that's what I just said. Each and every one of us are the twins.
like Esau is a Yetzer Hara, and
No, I don't want to take it to Yetzer Hara. I want to keep it at the level of religion. I want to talk about religion. I know we don't want to, but we need to. I want to talk about religion.
I was just going to say this, that's the battle within us.
That's not the battle within us. The battle within us, Jacob and Esau, I'm going to say it as simple as I can, is Judaism and Christianity. It's Judaism and Christianity. And yes, we all have the twins inside of us. But we have to win the fight. I don't see us winning the fight. Do you? Look around. Do you see us winning the fight?
We're not that 300, but
No.
start.
But look where we are. Look who's got the money.
Yeah.
Look who's got the power. Look who's got the influence. Look who's got the words to put out everywhere. Look who's got the strength to say whatever they want to say, however they want to say it. And we got to dance around like we're walking on glass? We're not winning. We're losing terribly. And it's because of our inconsistencies. It's because our mouth is talking Jew words, but we're not doing Judaism. Doing a little tiny bit. Do you see what I'm saying? So the only way to win this is to really buckle down and figure out this Jew world that God gave us. We got to figure it out. You got to study it. You can't just listen to me and then go, okay, I get it, I'm good. No, you're not. Neither am I. We got to do the work to figure this out. Galatians 4 says, you brothers and sisters, like Isaac, are children of promise. But just like it was back then, the son who was born according to the flesh, he's talking about Ishmael and Essov. Those are the ones born according to the flesh, Ishmael and then later Essov. Persecuted the one who was born according to the Spirit. That's Isaac and then later on Jacob. You got the godly line, you got the fleshy line. And the fleshy line always persecuted the godly line. And nothing has changed to this day. That's what it says. Nothing has changed to this day, as it is unto this day, or something like that. That means nothing's changed to this day. Nothing's changed. We are still struggling inside of her. Problem is, you're not fighting. You're not fighting like you should fight. You're getting whipped. We're getting whipped. Jacob didn't lose. Jacob didn't lose. So we can walk to the right or we can walk to the left. So here's the answer of the whole problem. And it's from this weird little thing. Isaac's divine service, now we're talking about Isaac, the one who gave birth to Jacob and Essov. Well, I mean, him and his wife. Whose essence is encapsulated in the words, and Isaac dug again the wells that Abraham his father had dug. Well, if his daddy dug them, redig them. Don't dig other wells, dig those wells. Did Abraham do Judaism? Yeah? Dig those wells. Don't go dig some other well. Dig those wells. And give him the same name that your daddy gave him. Don't call Yeshua Yeshua, or whatever they say now. Don't change things. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't come up with your own mixture of Edom and Jacob, Christianity, Hebrew roots, whatever. I don't even know what labels to put on that. But that's how he did it right. Isaac did it right. He went right back to what his father dug, and he said, I'm going to dig those back out. Those are good. He says, Isaac dug again the wells that Abraham, his father, had dug. It's to pattern his actions after Abraham's. And in a certain respect, this is the most difficult task that a person can undertake. Because Isaac emulates Abraham not just in one particular practice, but it is in entire life. He follows the same path. Remember, both of them went down to Egypt. Both of them lied about their wife being their sister, remember? Both of them dug wells. Both of them did Judaism. Step after step. I love that. Look at that. Follows the same path, step after step. Walk to the right like Isaac. Step after step. Like Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, Jacob. That's what we got to do. What happened to his father involving the king of the Philistines happened to him too. And the same is true of many incidents. All that Isaac does, all he does, that's why he only has a half Torah portion, he only does a little bit, but all he does is redig the wells that his father dug and gave him the same names. Don't change Judaism. Let Judaism change us. Let it change you. Don't try to change it. Don't try to, reform it into what you think and what you believe and what you heard. That's the worst one. What you heard, because that's all you know. Just shut up. Don't say anything and study. And then once you get something, cool. Let it talk to you. Okay, you see what I'm saying? We all believe a lot of crazy stuff. You guys more than me. And I'm saying that on purpose. Because you come from a Christian background, I do not. Not even after I got born again. Then I went into Messianic Judaism, that is Christianity, but I still got to do some Jewish stuff. So I just have a little bit better than you do. But the fact is, you come from that root, you're going to have to kill it. See what I'm saying? It's up to you. You're welcome. I appreciate that. So we've looked at this 4 weeks in a row. The Lord appeared to, and by the way, you need to know this verse backwards and forwards. Really, this changed my life when I got this. Because I finally had an answer for both Jews and Christians and everybody else. That Abraham did Judaism. The Lord appeared to him, Isaac, and said, do not go down to Egypt. Stay in the land of which I will tell you. What does that tell you? It tells you that Isaac never left Israel. Right? He didn't go to the king of Egypt. He went to the king of Gerar, which is south, but it's not Egypt. It's still in the land of Israel. Isaac is the only guy in the whole Bible that's a good, in Genesis, that never left Israel. Never left Israel. Isn't that cool? He was there his whole life. Of which I shall tell you, for to you and to your seed I will give all these lands. By your seed all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Only because Abraham did Judaism. He listened to my voice, Shema Koli, and he observed my watches or guards or observances, yishmor mishmarti. He kept my, you want to call it commandments? Even more so telling you that Abraham did commandments. I don't call them commandments. I say he did the establishments. You want to call them commandments? Call them commandments. Even more so, meaning he did Judaism. He did my establishments, my commandments, mitzvotai, and he did my chukim, plural, chukotai, my chukot, team, my statutes, and my torotai, my laws. You want to call them laws? Call them laws. That means Abraham did the law. I don't say law. I say my instructions, my teachings. Torotai. Okay. Abraham did Judaism. And he taught it to the nations, that's right. And he taught it to his kids, except one of them rejected it wholeheartedly, Essov. And that's why God hated him. Because he is the ultimate evil, Essov. Because he rejected Judaism. It was in his house and he rejected it. So Yeshua comes along and he tells the Jews of his day, they said to him, Abraham is our father. Now remember, they're talking to a rabbi. Rabbi, Abraham's our father. Yeshua said to them, yeah, you're Abraham's children? Then do what Abraham did. Walk like Abraham walked. How did Abraham walk? Did Judaism. He's telling this to Jews in Israel. Okay? There is no doubt whatsoever that in the scriptures, God only says that he hates Essov, that Essov is Rome, that Rome came from Greece, and Greece is the perfect picture of everything God hates. And it's called, the way of Greece is called Hellenism. Now I've made this is very, very deep. It's very, there's a lot of parts and pieces to it. I've made this as simple as I can get it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, because we're coming up to Hanukkah. So I'm going to talk about it more. But it is incumbent on all of us. It's incumbent on all of us to really think, how can I rid myself of the Hellenistic things that I believe, that I do, that I show to the world? And it's on all of us. We all have to do it. Okay? We're in this together. So let's stand and celebrate what we have that's different from the world. And look at these words as we say. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. Let us adore the Lord of all, who in greatness created the world from of old, that he has not made us like the nations of the earth, not made us like the families of the land, has not made our destiny like theirs, and has not cast our lot with all of them. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushamo echad. And it is said, the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day, the Lord shall be one, and his name one. Va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim liftei melech malachei hamalachim hakadosh baruch hu. And we bend the knee and bow in worship and give thanks to the King of Kings, the Holy One. Blessed is he. We acknowledge before the King of Kings that there's none like him. There's nothing but him, as Torah says. Know that the Lord, he is God in the heavens above and in the earth beneath. Ein od. There is nothing else but God. Shabbat shalom. Let's do Kiddush, please.